Every day, we are sprinting. We chase tight deadlines, pursue promotions, and watch our bank accounts, hoping for a constant upward trend. Yet when the monitors finally go dark and our heads hit the pillow, there is often a lingering, hollow silence. We hit the targets, but the satisfaction feels remarkably thin. The friction comes from how we've been taught to measure a successful life. Modern metrics prioritize what you accumulate, what you own. They rarely account for who you actually become in the process. Building a life around an infinite accumulation of metrics is an exhausting loop. Finding actual fulfillment requires looking outside that cycle to a framework that redefines the very mechanics of success. There is a common assumption that securing a place in the hereafter requires abandoning the material economy entirely, isolating oneself in a mosque and leaving the world's progress to everyone else. However, the sequence in Surah Al-Baqarah, one of the most frequently recited prayers in Islam, suggests otherwise. It requests excellence in this life first, and then excellence in the next. The world is addressed as the necessary starting point. Think of this life as a farm. If a farmer abandons his fields today out of a misplaced sense of piety, he will have nothing to harvest tomorrow. Within this framework, the material world is not an enemy to be avoided. It is the primary investment vehicle for eternal success. To capitalize on that investment, we have to understand the core mechanic of this spiritual economy: conversion. In physics, a transducer takes one raw form of energy and converts it into another, like heat into motion. In the spiritual economy, niyat, or intention, operates exactly like this. It converts the raw energy of physical labor into spiritual capital, known as pahala. This means driving for a rideshare app, writing code, or organizing spreadsheets isn't just work. By consciously doing it to provide for a family or serve the community, the task changes state. The mundane becomes an act of worship. When you master your niyat, you aren't just working for a paycheck. You are generating lasting value from the same physical effort you are already expending. Once the intention is set, the execution must rise to match it. This is the principle of itqan, the demand for rigorous quality in whatever you build. Modern work culture often encourages a bare minimum mindset. People do just enough to avoid a reprimand and then clock out. The Islamic framework actively rejects this lack of care. The drive for excellence doesn't come from a fear of being fired. It is powered by ihsan, a persistent state of spiritual awareness. Operating with ihsan means working as if you are under the direct observation of the Creator. When you carry that awareness, you don't need physical managers or surveillance software to ensure you're doing your best. A person of faith holds themselves to an exacting standard because it is a point of integrity. It stems from the realization that presenting low-quality effort to God is a failure of character. Money can be lost and earned back. Time cannot. The Quran emphasizes this by swearing by time in Surah Al-Asr, positioning it as the one currency that cannot be saved. The 5 daily prayers function as a sophisticated system for psychological pacing. This schedule forces necessary shifts, waking to focus before the noise, pausing to disconnect at the workday's peak intensity, and returning to family and reflection as the day ends. It is a divine framework for structuring a life. If this foundational schedule is ignored, the broader discipline required for a successful life often begins to unravel. Even with perfect discipline, any ambitious pursuit involves turbulence. Markets will shift, projects will fail, and personal losses will occur. To navigate these swings, the Prophet Muhammad outlined a formula for emotional resilience. It relies on a dual system: shakur, or gratitude, and sab, or patience. Gratitude absorbs the shock of success. When things go well, recognizing it as a temporary gift prevents ego from taking root. Patience absorbs the shock of hardship. When plans fail, framing it as a process of refinement prevents the onset of despair. This creates a state where a believer is never truly defeated. Success is a gift to be shared, and hardship is a lesson that prepares the soul for the journey ahead. The hereafter begins with the micro decisions made today. It is built through how we handle our wealth, our time, and our integrity right now. The Islamic tradition calls for believers to be grounded, highly successful professionals from ethical surgeons to innovative entrepreneurs. The goal is to hold the world firmly in your hand so you can use it to build something better. But you must keep the world out of your heart. If your heart isn't attached to these temporary materials, it won't break when they are eventually taken away. At the end of the journey, the reward is not the fading applause of human crowds. It is the peace found in the Creator's recognition of your effort. Leveraging the materials of today to secure the reality of tomorrow is the true meaning of Al-Falah, success in this life and in the next.